welcome to another edition of Lab Rats. My name is Andy Walker.
I'm Sean Carruthers.
And this is a show where we demystify technology, take acronyms and deconstruct them and spell them out and make sure that you kind of know what they mean. And today, acronym of the week is
HTML5. And you seem very excited about this.
I am. You know, back in the early days of sort of when I got involved in technology and publishing and that sort of thing, I actually learned HTML at the very, very beginning of sort of the consumer web back in 1994. And, you know, that was HTML version 1, or even before there was a standard, I think. And, you know, here we are 5 versions later, 20 years later, more or less. Actually, was it 20 years later? 15 years later. And HTML5 really kind of fills a lot of the gaps that have sort of been missing from that markup language that sort of created the web.
Yes, so markup you mentioned is the key word. Hypertext markup language,
Right.
which is basically little enclosures that you put around text to format things and make sure the page looks like a page as opposed to a random long string of text.
That's right. And because it's such a revolution, we're going to kind of go through it today. What is HTML5? What does it mean for you? I'm not necessarily going to teach you how to write HTML5, but kind of go through sort of the key pieces of it to let you know as an end user why it's going to be a big deal and how you can actually start to use it when you surf the web.
Yes, you may already be using it and not know it.
Not even know it, exactly. All right, so let's take a break, and when we come back, we're going to delve into HTML5 and demystify it for you. Today on
Lab Rats.
Welcome back to Lab Rats. Before we get started, I want to talk to you a little bit about hover.com, as I often do in this space here at Lab Rats. And hover.com, of course, is the place where you can register your domains easily. So if you have andywalker.com, well, you don't, because I do, or seancarruthers.com.
You don't, because I do.
He does. But you might have your own name.com. So zip on over there, because that will give you a really easy way to register that domain. And one of the things I really like about it is this is an easy email snap-on. I own technologytips.com. And I've started to use it more and more as my kind of my personal email address, andy@technologytips.com. And you know, I sort of started hosting it, the email over at hover.com, and I have to say it's really easy to use. You know, there's videos to show you how to kind of enable it on your iPhone or your, you know, iPad or anything like that, or even your basic Windows 98. You know, all the different versions of that stuff, right?
Yeah, and it's nice because you can get like one address if it's just you, or if you have like a whole little team and it's like an address that you're registering for your small business, you can have addresses for all of these people potentially.
Yeah, it's good.
Just add them on for a small yearly fee.
So to help you get started on that, zip on over to hover.com, use the code below for 10% off your first services, and that'll work for, you know, if you want to register a domain and get email services, or just move a domain over there, get 10% off for your first year. So that's kind of a little gift for you from us. All right, moving on, HTML5. Let's demystify it. I guess, you know, where do we start? I suppose we start up at a very low level. HTML is a markup language.
Right.
So let's talk about what exactly is a markup language.
Well, as we mentioned off the top, it's essentially a way to format your text and to get specific elements onto the page. So when you go to a web page like butterscotch.com, for example, there's a lot of things going on there to make the page look exactly the way it does. That page doesn't come fully formed like that off of our hard drive, so we have to tell it to do certain things in certain ways to get it on there. So, okay, this is what the background is going to be, this is what the text size is going to be, this is what the color of the text is going to be. Going even further, it says what images are there and where they're placed, all of that sort of stuff. So at a very basic level, there's far more going on in modern websites with CSS and you know, pulling things from the back end and Perl scripts and all of that other stuff. So.
Right. But the fundamental language that drives it all is HTML, and we're on to version 5. It's about to come out. In fact, it's already showing up in some browsers, and it's really going to change some fundamental ways in which we view the web. The mouth doesn't work today.
We need some new tags for your mouth.
That's right, exactly, yeah. Work. No, the way it works. So let's talk about why it matters.
Why does it
matter? Why does it matter? Like, why do we care about HTML5? What's it going to bring to the consumer experience that we don't already have?
Well, there's a couple things for this. So one of the things, as you say, as you introduce new versions of this, they tend to backfill some of the things that people have wanted in HTML that have been added on by other third parties. So in the case of HTML5, what they're bringing is media streaming right inside HTML. So you've had to put in a third-party solution like QuickTime or Adobe Flash or whatever in the back end of your website in order to stream this
Yeah,
video.
you use HTML to kind of embed it or plug it
Right.
into the page as opposed to making it part of the page.
But yeah, and it wasn't part of the HTML specification before. It was, as I say, an add-on. And there'll be add-ons for HTML5 for the stuff they don't add in. But in this case, they've added in that. They've added in the ability to drag and drop. They've added in some other things. There's a whole list of it over at Wikipedia at their HTML5 page. So you can see all of the things that they've added in, like a canvas element for drawing, like which would be good for whiteboarding between people.
Oh, yeah,
that sort of thing. So there's a bunch of things.
Okay, good.
And we can see a couple of these things live in action if you like.
Yeah, so why don't you take us through some of the cool stuff that HTML5 makes possible?
Right. Well, one of the first people to leap on top of this was Apple. They've been a huge proponent of HTML5. Google as well, and both of these companies, coincidentally, have browsers. And Apple actually has a little showcase for use in Safari of all the things that you can do. So if you go in here, they show you some of the things you can do. So, for example, you've got a video here of our favorite upcoming movie, Tron. I'm sure you're excited for this.
I am very excited.
And I know Paul is excited for Tron. I am as well.
Yeah.
So here's the thing: is it's streaming. Okay, you could do this before using things like Silverlight or Flash or QuickTime. Now you also have the ability to like scale things on the fly like this. You have the ability to put a mask on right here, so you can see now it's got the Tron logo over top of it, and you can only see through that. I'm going to turn that off so we can actually see the whole thing again. Scale it back up. Just like that. It's very easy because this is all native. And we've got perspective. We can actually tilt it sideways to add a little bit of an effect to it. And again, this is controlled behind the scenes using HTML coding and JavaScript and things like that. And you can change these things yourself as the web developer to be basically whatever you want them to be.
What's really cool about this, I think, for the end user, not only is it going to have a richer and easier experience in terms of consuming your media, but you may remember back in the day when you designed a web page, not a web page, but a regular page with desktop publishing software. Now HTML5 will make it easy to design dynamic, rich websites with a tool that will be easy to use as well.
Mm-hmm. Here's another example for you. It's just, again, a very simple example, something that you couldn't do before very easily. It's typography. So you have a message on here. It says hello, and you can change this very quickly to Andy is a wiener. We're going to use the regional variant here. And again, we can change the leading on this very easily, just back and forth.
So designers are madly in love with HTML5 because they can do all kinds of really cool things without having to kind of stick in weird fixes and sort of shortcuts to get things done.
Right.
I know, for example, the designer's Archetype that does all the design for us at butterscotch.com, they're thrilled. They're really delighted. I mean, the idea of dynamic typography on the web is just unheard of before, so it's a very exciting
and this is nice because it looks like it gives you the ability to just change your font on the fly in behind the scenes, and you don't have to have that font installed on the back end of that other machine that's viewing this. But beforehand, you either had to have that font for it to be used, or you had to have it rendered out as graphics instead of a font. Like fonts are really scalable, so like we can take this and just scale it right up, scale it right down, and it's the font, and it does that very smoothly and quickly. Whereas before, if you're doing that with text or that doesn't have that font on that machine, or if you're doing it with graphics, it starts to look poopy really quickly.
Right,
so
now Arcade Fire, is the band Arcade Fire, has sort of done something really interesting with HTML5. Do you have that kicking around?
Yeah, so it's something called the Wilderness Downtown. So we've got one big page here, and we're going to look for the address of the home where you grew up. So I'm going to type in Brandon, Manitoba. And what it's going to do is now going to go in behind the scenes, and it's going to start loading in a bunch of stuff and pulling it into their HTML5 framework here. And then now it's ready to go. Let's play the film. So this is basically a video. So it's opening up a whole pile of little things all over the place here. And it's going to show us little footage of my old hometown in here, pulled from Google Maps, and sort through it, move it around. It's going to be a completely, a much more customized, richer experience than we used to get before.
Very cool. That's great. One of the great things. The other people who did a really nice job with HTML5 was Google recently with their Pac-Man interface. They spelled Google out, and they made a little Pac-Man game. I think really ruined productivity and most
they killed productivity, definitely. And if you look at the source of this, it just is a whole pile of HTML code calling on JavaScript and other stuff that's already built into browsers and is already functional with HTML. Not an add-on. Like before, to do something like that, you would have to build the application in something like Adobe Flash.
Yeah.
And then that would require a plugin. So if you didn't have the plugin, you'd have to go get it. And in this case right now, you do have to get a browser that's compatible with HTML5. But once you've got that, you can basically run all this HTML5 stuff that's coming out without any additional plugins.
Right, right. So, so let's talk about who supports HTML5 today. You mentioned Apple, so I guess Safari does.
Yeah, Safari does on these machines. Chrome does.
That's the
to a
Google
certain extent,
browser.
and they all support it to varying extents as well. Firefox does as well, but Firefox, from a video perspective, they at this point, anyways, they support OGG Vorbis behind the scenes, and a lot of people out there are like,
OGG what?
Who?
Who?
What?
OGG?
It's a alternate video format and audio format that's been out there for a while.
Yeah. It just doesn't hold a candle to the H.264.
H.264 is the one that Apple has chosen to use with Safari, and it is the standard for web video at this point, just from the terms of quality. Now people are complaining, well, it's not open, OGG is open, and we won't support something that's proprietary like H.264. And just, I think they're going to get broken down and end up embracing H.264 as well, because it just looks so much better.
Yeah.
So, but a lot of these features will be rolled into these other browsers. At this point, IE doesn't support it.
No, but the
but they will.
Internet Explorer 9 beta is coming out the 15th of September, 2010. So as we tape this in a couple of weeks' time, and by the time you see it, it's probably going to be out. So you can get a real sense of what IE9 can offer. Download it, test it yourself if you want. I think it's going to be a great browser from everything that I've seen so far, and it will support HTML5.
Very good.
Final thoughts, actually, before we sort of close the topic here. Flash, Adobe Flash. There's been a big war between Adobe and Apple around using Flash on the web and using it on the iPhone and that sort of thing.
Yes. Now, the big question, I think, is HTML5 going to kill Flash?
Yeah.
In the short term, no.
Don't think so. There's too much content designed in Flash right now for it to go away, I think.
Yeah, but I think what it's starting to do is really starting to show the limitations of Flash as a platform for delivering content. So, for one thing, if you take a Flash website, if your website is built in nothing but Flash, then there's nothing for the search engines to grab onto. It can't get your content because it's all built into that little bundle there. Whereas HTML5, it's all out in the open.
It reminds me of as if your website was written on stone. All the search engines see is big chunks of stone when it gets to your website, and it can't do anything with it, as opposed to the written word and you know what I mean?
Right.
So you just see chunks of code. They don't see anything else.
Yeah, and now in this case, a lot of what you could do with Adobe Flash on the web is now capable in HTML5 in the little modules that it adds into the standard.
Right.
The other thing that a lot of people didn't like about Adobe Flash, now talk about H.264 being proprietary. Well, Adobe Flash is about as proprietary as you can get. The fact that everybody uses it doesn't mean it's not proprietary.
Yeah.
So there's that, and if there's a problem with it and Adobe doesn't want to fix it, too bad. Like on the Apple machines, on the Mac, we've been suffering from crappy performance from Adobe Flash for years.
Yes.
And Adobe's problem is Apple's problem. And Apple is, well, we can't do anything with your product.
Yeah.
So,
to the point where they wouldn't include it on the iPhone.
Right, they won't include it in the iPhone, and I understand completely, because
Yeah.
whenever you fire up Adobe Flash on the Macintosh, it just sends your system down into a tailspin. It crawls. It like sends your performance, your CPU performance, up to 100%.
Right, right.
And that's just unacceptable
So,
to a lot of people.
so maybe we'll see a compromise. HTML5 will do some really good things. Flash will stay there as a legacy product.
That's the thing. There's still things that HTML5 can't do that Flash is still capable of doing.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of animation stuff that Flash will be better at. It does have some animation capabilities in it, but there still is going to be an overlap for a while, and either Flash is going to evolve into something that is more useful or different enough to justify its continued existence, or I think HTML5 will take over eventually. But as you said, it's got its claws in so deep at this point, and there's so much stuff on the web using it, that to get rid of it immediately, it's not going to happen.
Not happening anytime soon. Good. All right, thank you, Sean. All right, so take a break. When we come back, we've got a clip of the week, picture time, and final thoughts. Well, as you know, we have probably somewhere in the region of 1,500 tutorials over on butterscotch.com, and we thought we'd pick this one coming up right here for this show because Doc Callahan, one of our tutorial creators, has done a piece on what is HTML. So kind of give you a little primer on what that is. It's a longer piece. We're going to show you 30 seconds, and of course you can see the rest of it on butterscotch.com. So let's take a look.
Welcome on deck. I'm Matt Harris.
Hi, I'm Jay Goldman.
Welcome to the A-List. Hi, welcome to Miss Download.
You see here, a markup language. When your professor used to mark your term paper with red or blue ink, they were marking it up. But in this case, HTML gives a way to format web pages. So if you look at butterscotch.com, here it is, right here. But if you look at the HTML code, here it is right here.
There you go. You can see the entire piece over at butterscotch.com. That's Doc Callahan's What is HTML5? And
yeah, the nice thing about that is that our web host that does all of our videos not only streams it in Flash and QuickTime, it also supports HTML5. So you can actually view all of our content on an iPad or an iPhone.
Because it uses HTML5.
Yes.
Very good. Good stuff. See, we're already using it. We use it. We practice what we preach, which is always good. All right, picture time. We have a couple pictures, Mr. Carruthers?
We have a couple pictures today. So first up, you remember how we went to see our friends at Panasonic a short while back, and we did some 3D stuff, and we put on some eyewear?
Yes.
Well, our pal Matt in Massachusetts also has some 3D glasses as well for his Samsung set.
Ah.
So he wanted to show this to him. He
Very
has
nice.
a PN 5000 plasma TV.
Nice.
And he also lives in Boston and wants Matt to know that he'll go to the game with him.
Ah,
See the
there you
Bruins
go.
if he ever shows up in Boston again, which our Matt will. Oh, Paul's a Yankees fan. His opinion doesn't count in this right here. We're talking about the Bruins now, Paul.
Boom. Talking about the Red Sox.
Moving on. Another picture? Ah, look at this.
This right here,
Looks like
another
a background.
a landscapey shot in Washington State from our friend Arjun, who lives in Washington State.
Right.
He said he's seen something just almost like this that is one of the backgrounds on the iPad, I think.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, that was one of the background wallpapers.
He wanted to share this with us.
That's
So,
fantastic.
yeah,
Arjun.
Thank you, Arjun.
Very good. All right, well, if you want to send your pictures to us or your videos to us, you can email them to...
Don't wait until HTML6 is available to send us email. Send it now at labrats.tv.
A lot to spell. It's going to take you a while, so
Yeah,
we have a shortcut.
It won't take you as long as waiting for HTML6.
No, that's true. That's true. So but instead, you could send it to...
Feedback at labrats.tv. That's sort of bundled in. It's already part of the spec, as they say.
All right. Any final thoughts about HTML5? I mean, a very exciting, development, I think, in the tech world.
I'm pretty excited about it. Definitely, what I've seen so far has impressed me. Again, just the ability to stream video inside your browser without any special plugins. That strikes me as very, very cool, especially because a lot of the world is going into this multimedia-centric web.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a really nice add-on.
Very good.
Is there anything you think is missing?
Honestly, I don't. I mean, what the reality is actually one of the key pieces that they have added that I think is important is the drag and drop functionality. Mm-hmm. So really what's happening now is you're seeing it being developed as a kind of a development language for on-screen or in-browser software.
Right.
Which is really what it is, right? Once upon a time it was for magazine-style pages. Now it really is interactive software with multimedia. So I don't know what's missing. I mean, I can't think of what I would like to see in HTML6, but I'm sure the wizards out there will come up with it at some point.
We'll find some new features to add in.
There you go. Good. All right. Well, thanks for zipping over to us this week and pushing play. It'd be foolish for us to be messing around with the code out here if you weren't out there surfing the web looking for great web pages. My name's Andy Walker.
I'm HTML compatible.
And he's Sean Carruthers too. We'll see you next time.
Are you ready? Try this at home.
Banana flavored sugar water. Does he drink banana pop or something?
He took a perfectly fine water and turned it into poison.
Yeah, no, someone gave me these packs. They're like crystallized packs of sugar and flavoring. And so, because water isn't tasty anymore or at all healthy, people decided that you should take the pack and brew in water and
Yes,
make it.
I
But I
understand.
just had one, and I just happened to think, why not?
Well,
We used to have this way back in the day. It was called Kool-Aid.
Well, it's still,
Kool-Aid.
it's essentially that, but it's for adults. So, anyways,
Kool-Aid's for adults.
not anymore. Only if you're
it is if
drinking
you mix it with vodka.